Alright guys, welcome back to Conqueror and Commander. Today we're going to be talking about my Doran the Siege Tower deck. Doran here is a legendary Treefolk Shaman who basically makes your creatures deal damage equal to their toughness rather than their power. And if you want to see the complete deck list all printed up nice and neat, go to puremtgo.com, look up my article series Conqueror and Commander, and you'll see the whole deck list written out like this. This is a deck list that came about as a result of another suggestion on MTG Salvation from No Drog, who says, Doran the Siege Tower, do it. Real quick, real easy. And Doran is a deck that I've kind of wanted to put together for a long time and just never really got around to, and this seemed like the perfect time to do so. So what I wanted to do was kind of keep tribal treefolk vibe to go along with Doran, just because it seemed like the most appropriate thing to do. It's real easy to make Doran like a hardcore rock version deck with a lot of like cheap beaters, such as Sarah Ascendant, and you can even, if you really want to, put in Dark Confident and a lot of stuff like that. But I didn't want to go that route. I really wanted to keep it as treefolky as possible. As you'll see, it's not all treefolk, but you know what? The deck does okay as it is. It still does have a lot of like rock type elements to it, as you'll see. Let's just start over here on the far right. This is going to be all the destruction that the deck can pull out. We've got Woodfall Primus, who's just a good treefolk. Elish Norn, who has not only a high toughness, but can also pump your creatures and shrink your opponent's creatures, which is nice. Silklash Spider helps out with flying creature control. Wave of Reckoning does well, especially when a lot of your stuff has high power or high toughness and low power. This will kill a couple of your creatures, but we do have a couple ways to pump toughness to all our creatures, so hopefully that'll help out as well. Wickerbow Elder is another treefolk. Wrath of God, Damnation, Pernicious Deed, Corrosive Grip. Crib Swap is in here specifically because it's tutorable with stuff like Treefolk Harbinger. You can draw it off of Leaf Crowned Elder, and it exiles creatures instead of just destroying them. So I liked that. Beast Within, Vindicate, Retribution of the Meek. Again, a lot of the creatures in the deck are going to have low toughness. Low power. And so Retribution of the Meek typically acts as a one-sided wrath a lot of times. Kasali Pride Mage is fun. Nihil Spellbomb, Nature's Claim, Source of Plowshares, Path to Exile, and Strip Mine round out your destruction. So you got a good amount of ways to blow things up. Also in this deck we have some card draw, which is always helpful. Some of this card draw is kind of situational. You've got to meet various requirements in order to use it. Histrodon obviously needs to connect, but it does have a higher toughness than power, so I liked that with him. Sapling means that the top of your library needs to be a creature in order to draw it. Leaf Crowned Elder. There are a decent amount of treefolk, however, it's not all treefolk, so you're not going to always hit with Leaf Crowned Elder. Graveborn Muse is just standard draw, harmonize, Phyrexian Arena. Hunter's Insight. I like Hunter's Insight, and with some of the high toughness with these guys, when Doran's out there, you're going to be able to draw a lot of cards. Sword of Fire and Ice is always good, and Sylvan Library. Obviously, he's typically not a draw spell, but if you do have some life gain with stuff like Vault of the Archangel, you can start drawing cards off the library. Any rock deck is going to have some recursion elements, so we do have Deadwood Treefolk, Eternal Witness, Sword of Light and Shadow, Regrowth, Phyrexian Reclamation, and Volrath's Stronghold. So this is your main like rock element type of stuff here. We do need to kind of like support Doran. So two ways to pump up your toughness are Oathsworn Giant, who gives all your dudes vigilance and increases their toughness, and Spider Silk Armor, which allows your dudes to block flying creatures. Both of these are good cards in the deck. The one card that I couldn't fit in was Slagworm Armor, and that's the piece of equipment that actually gives creatures +0/+6 or something like that. And I wish I could fit this in the deck, but unfortunately, I just didn't think that it did enough. Yeah, I just didn't. I mean, it. Yes, it can turn Doran into essentially a 2-hit kill, commander damage kill. But a lot of times I didn't really kill people with commander damage. It was just overall swarms. If you want, go ahead and stick it in there. But I also wanted to keep the creature count high. And I noticed right now I've only got 27 creatures. So that was one of the issues with the decks as well. Obviously, because I have green, I'm going to have some mana help here with Soul Ring, Crows and Verge. Farseek, Nature's Lore, and 3 Visits are all in there to make sure that I can cast Doran on turn 3. You know, the 2 mana search spells are very helpful. Cultivate and Kodama's Reach are nice as well. Mirari's Wake is good, and then Seed Guide Ash helps you ramp when he dies. So we've covered a couple of different tree folk, but there's a few more tree folk here that help out with all of your tree folk tribalness. Some of them are not going to be very intuitive, I guess. Bosk Banneret, obviously a good tree folk. Gaia's Avenger. The Avenger actually worked out really well for me. A lot of people love their artifacts, and this guy would get really big sometimes. So I really liked him, and he was cheap too. Reach of Branches is nice, especially because, you know, having a token producer that would produce these big dudes, these tree folk, worked out really well. There are times, however, where you're not going to be putting a whole lot of forests into play, and so sometimes it'll just sit in your library or in your graveyard. But you know, when you are able to recur it, it's awesome. Fen Deep Summoner. I really wanted a mono black tree folk just for the sake of flavor, and this was the only one I could come up with. The mono black one that I liked and that actually worked well. You know, he basically taps to deal 10 points of damage, and I felt that that was worth it. And he ended up doing okay. I'm not saying he's the greatest guy ever, because he's not, but I enjoyed using him. Timber Protector, obviously good. U-Spirit, you know, easy tree folk, that's pumpable. Obviously, I already have Chameleon Colossus in here, and I just figured I'd add him as well. There's the Chameleon Colossus. Vertaloth can help by using up a bunch of mana at the end game to make a bunch of tokens and pumps things. Unstoppable Ash was actually really good. You know, first of all, having trample was good, and then, you know, pumping your dudes once they get blocked is awesome as well. Indomitable Ancients, I kind of wanted to cut these guys, but in all honesty, the 10 toughness is pretty sweet with Doran out there, so I kept him in the deck. One of the issues that I had with the deck was that it didn't have a whole lot of early turn creatures with high toughness. And I didn't want just dudes that were just dudes, but I ended up going with 2 anyways. Grizzled Leotau as a 1/5, and it can turn into a 5/5 beater on turn 3 when you play Doran. Not the best, doesn't really do anything. I already have Kasali Pridemage in here, but it does okay, you know. The other big sort of what the heck am I doing card is Icaral Outrider. You only have to level it up once to make it a 2/6 vigilant creature. However, that is basically an investment of 6 mana. I'm not saying it's the best creature out there, but again, I wanted an early turn play that would do well for me later on, and the Outrider actually did okay in the deck. So then what else we got here? This is kind of like my grab all pile. I've got Elspeth, who helps out with creature-based shenanigans. Pontiff of Blight. High toughness and giving all your dudes extort means that, like, casting a late game Soul Ring with three guys out there means that you can turn a late game Soul Ring into a massive tempo swing in terms of life. So I liked him a lot. Vati can turn any creature's toughness to 1, which will essentially make them hit for very little. and most of the time kill them as well in combat. Vault of the Archangel was a huge card in this deck. It was a massive amount of life gain a lot of times, and there was a recommendation from somebody that I change out one of my card search lands to Sylvan Scrying, and I'll be honest, I don't think you could really hurt yourself by turning Nature's Lore or 3 Visits or Farseek, even one of those guys, into Sylvan Scrying to make sure that you could grab Vault of the Archangel. Finally, Ready and Willing. I just wanted to play with this card just because it was new and fun and in the right colors. The Indestructibility helped once or twice. The Death Touch and Lifelink, not as much. But the Ready part was good. And then I've got my tutors here. Treefolk Harbinger was usually used to tutor up Woodfall Primus. And then Vampiric Tutor and Demonic Tutor. The land base, I've got 38 lands in here. The interesting lands are Mirren, which sacrifice for toughness. And I'm going to have a lot of high toughness dude. Gavony Township will make your guys bigger over time. Forbidding Watchtower is a pretty cool high toughness land. That should probably just be over here, honestly. I have a decent amount of fetch lands, but I didn't want to go overboard on the fetch lands. So there's only like 6 of them in here, mainly because I needed as many forests as I could get to get Breach of Branches going. And I've got Bajuka Bog as well to screw up people's graveyards. So that's the deck. You know, it's a little bit controlling, but mainly it's a beatdown deck with a lot of Treefolk and stuff like that. Let's take a look at the mana curve here really quick, if I can pull it up. There we go. So the average CMC is 3.42, which is a little high. It's obviously skewing towards green, but the curve itself isn't horrible. You know, it's not bad in terms of the statistics. Now, one of the issues was, you know, trying to keep it Treefolky. I couldn't play all the Treefolk that I wanted. So let's take a look at some of the Treefolk that did not make the cut. Canker Abomination was in an early version of the deck, but all it was a 6/6 beater, and it costing 4 mana. I'd rather just pay 2 mana and get the Grizzled Liato. Dauntless Dowerbark, I didn't always have a high amount of Treefolk or forests in play, so he wasn't always big. Dungrove Elder suffered from the same problem. Some of these other guys just didn't do enough, like Battlemont Oak. Hidden Ancients is not a good card, really. Lignify is a card that I wanted to put in there, but having an enchantment out there turning something off doesn't work very well when they can blow it up whenever they want with a disenchanting effect. Namada didn't pump my my Treefolk by itself, so he didn't get in there. Oaknall Warrior was cool and all, but just didn't do enough. Orchard Warden, again, not enough Treefolk. Well, I mean, there's plenty of Treefolk in there. I don't know. It just cost too much for what it did. Root Grapple, same thing, just cost too much for what it did. It wasn't an early version of the deck, though. And I think that's mainly it. All these other guys are like, Weatherseed Treefolk kind of goes against a Doran themed deck, because all you're going to do is make him hit for less when Doran's out there. And then our mono black Treefolk are not all that great. Weed Pruner Poplar, and Thorn Tooth Witch. So anyways, this is a fun deck. It's not like super hardcore or anything like that. It's obviously Treefolk tribal-ish, I guess I should say. And I enjoyed playing with it. One of the issues that I did have with the deck was that I felt like sometimes I didn't have enough card draw in the deck. And I guess the main way to deal with that is either adding like a Blood Gift Demon or something like that, or including like Necropotence. And if you do Necropotence, I would definitely suggest adding some additional life game effects, but I just didn't want to go that route. And you know what, honestly, like, it only takes like one draw spell to really get you back in the game once you dump your hand. So that's the deck. I hope you guys like it, and check out the games that I play with it. All right, thanks.